Hey everyone, and welcome to what we think we are going to call the Fit Connection. I am Rachel, and this is Jane, and we have gotten to know each other over the last few weeks and had way too much fun talking, so we decided to make it official. Here we go. Let's do this.
Okay, let's do
All right.
it. Let's do it.
So let's talk about some of the things that we know we have in common first, because we do have some like big stuff in common.
Absolutely.
You have children. Talk about your kids.
Okay, so I have 4, which is mind-blowing to me. My oldest is 26, and he has left home, done the army service because I'm here in Israel, even though I have the English accent. And he's working. And then my daughter is 24. She's a flight attendant and trying to get into university. And then I have twin boys who are 17 and they are in 12th grade. So yeah, quite a spectrum of different things all going on at once.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, busy. And you have
I have 3. My oldest just turned 15, so we are halfway through the teenage years, almost halfway through the teenage years with her. One that will turn 13 later this year, and a 9-year-old. And so they are super fun age right now where it's been so nice to get out of the diaper bags and car seats and all of that, where I can give them a pack list if we're going somewhere and they can go pack their stuff and get in the car, and it's just not me doing my own stuff plus stuff for 3 other humans. So that's been really nice. But I know that where you are is going to come all too soon, and so I am kind of dreading it. I'm trying to really soak up all my time with them right now because they all have grand plans of moving away from home.
Yeah, that's a scary one. I don't know. I'm still and this sounds crazy, I'm still like in shock that I'm pregnant with twins and they're 17. Like, it's like there's something about it. Like, I mean it. I'm still like, oh my God, I'm going to have twins. And then they're the 17-year-old 6-foot guys. Because it's just, I don't know where the time went. It's like so weird, but I am pleased to not be. I used to carry the 2 car seats because it was easier than getting everybody out and putting them in like the stroller. So I would just like, so I'm pleased to be past that bit, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm at the stage where I'm going into the next phase of life, and that's pretty scary. So definitely enjoy those years now, because I don't know, they just go by in a flash. It's crazy.
I can just remember I find myself not even wanting to look at their baby pictures too often, or the toddler pictures, because it makes me sad. It makes me realize like how fast it's gone. And like Katie is going to be 18, like an adult in just a few years. And that's just wild to me.
I am at a stage where my oldest, Ori, is 26, and I don't understand how he's older than me.
That's some weird science right there.
That's right. Like, I'm still like about 21, 22. So how the hell is he 26? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I can't actually comprehend that. It's bizarre how time just goes.
So, because you married an American.
I did.
And then, so your kids, you said that they speak like British English though, right?
They do. Well, I think they speak 3 languages, because they speak Hebrew, British English, and American English. But if they choose, like when they just speak regularly in English, it is British English with my accent, not with with an American accent, which is quite a feat to have managed.
How did they? Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's talk about that. And then I want to backtrack how you ended up there to begin with. But so how did they, like, does their accent switch too, or just the words that they use?
The accent is British and the words they use are British, but occasionally there'll be something that's American.
Do you think it's because they were just around you more when they were little?
I think so. When my older 2 were little, my husband was in the army, so he was off a lot. I mean, he lived at home, but I just think I'm around more. I've always worked in jobs where I could be home in the afternoon or when they were home. So I'm sure, and I probably speak a lot more than he does, as one does if one's a woman. I have no explanation. I didn't like beat them if they used the wrong terminology, although I would go, no.
Really?
But no, I think it just, No, I think it just naturally happened. It's kind of a weird phenomenon because I don't know anybody else who's like that. If they have English American together, they all have American accents. So I don't know.
You lucked out.
I lucked out. Well, depends on which accent you prefer, but yes, something about a British accent now, isn't it?
It's just so smooth. It's just like, it just seems elegant. Like, even if you take someone that just is like, you'd be surprised to hear that coming out of them. It just sounds elegant.
Yeah, but that's like French sounds romantic. It's just
Yeah.
one of those. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Different, but yes, no, it's good. I'm glad they sound more like me. Although I'm sure my British friends back in London say that they say that their voices are too sing-songy, like it's not quite right, and I can't hear that anymore. So I don't know.
You're around them all the time.
Exactly.
So talk about how you ended up from growing up in England to Israel of all places, because I remember the first time that we were on a call and I heard that you lived in Israel, but I heard you speaking. I was like,
It's a
how
bit
did
weird.
that happen? How on earth? Because I thought maybe you had just moved there or that you were just there for like vacation or something. And I was like, oh no, she's lived there for like her whole adult life.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess it's this weird phenomenon of Jews going back to Israel under the right to return, the law of returns. Yeah, it's a bit of a complicated story, so I won't go into all of it. But yeah, I just came here out of college. I did my 4-year degree in England. I'd had a year here between high school and university, and just kind of decided to come. I didn't know if I would stay or not, but I ended up meeting my husband, who was originally American, but he had come to Israel when he was 13 with his family, so he considers himself. I had to get special permission from my British friends to marry an American. But it was okay because he considered himself Israeli. I joke. But yeah, no, so that's just kind of what happened. And then my kids were all born here, even, so yeah, it's,
so did you go from, so when you were in England, what part of England did you grow up?
I'm from London. I'm from
You're
London.
From London. Okay. Yeah. So from London, when you went to Israel, you had already finished your 4-year degree. So what did you do when you got there?
Well, I was on a program where you kind of learn about Israel and you learn Hebrew. And then I just kind of went out and got a job. And I must admit, I went out and got jobs, which I would never have done had I stayed in England. Like my Hebrew wasn't good enough. So I was English speaking secretary for a good few years, which was awful. You're highly educated and then you suddenly go off and you're like the bottom of the totem pole. Like it was difficult. It was difficult. It took me a long time. And then I went down lots of different paths until finally, actually only when I had the boys, my twins, did I go into fitness.
It was because you were lifting the
was those two,
you're like, I'm doing bicep curls nonstop anyway. I might as well turn it into
so that's only when I found myself. But I did many, many things. Well, you've also had an interesting career. I mean, yeah, tell me about you.
Military. So I started off, well, when I was 19. So I went to college for a year from like 18 to 19 and was just without direction. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I went to college, or I ended up joining the military at that point, but it was like the reserves. It's Air National Guard, which I don't know if any other countries have anything like that. They have reserves though, so it's basically the same thing. And so I joined that. And so it's just like the 1 weekend a month, but it helps pay for school too. It still ended up taking me like 7 years to get my bachelor's though, just because I would either volunteer for every deployment because I wanted to travel, or I would just take some time off. I was working full time also. And so it was just, I guess I just wasn't in a rush. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So my degree is in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And it makes no sense at all.
Tell me more about deployment. Like, what do you actually do? Like, how long are you there? Where did you go? That's like so interesting.
When I first joined, it's different now, but when I first joined, like when you would volunteer to go, it would just be like 2 weeks. And so it was no big deal. But within a few years, it changed to where it was like 4 months long. And so my second time I went to Kuwait for a couple of weeks, but I really loved it there. And so I asked to stay longer. And so I ended up staying for a month and came home. It was a culture shock for real, though, because I had never been out of the United States other than like to Canada, I think, at that point. And so to ride on a commercial airline to Kuwait, I was around people who didn't look like me, didn't sound like me. That was back when there was still like smoking on planes and
Remember the good old days.
exactly. And there was a guy on the way. There was a guy who did not speak English, and like I had the aisle seat, and he was trying to get me to change places with him so he could have the aisle and sit between him and his wife or his mom or whoever it was. And I was like, I don't even know. So I just moved. 44-year-old Rachel would not have moved. I
I
would
was
have been
going
like,
to say,
nope, this
please.
is my seat. But I was intimidated. I didn't want to offend anybody. And so I just moved. So that was my first like introduction to their culture. And I had quit smoking. I smoked for a while at that point, but I had quit. But by the time I got to the airport, I was so stressed out that I went and bought a pack of cigarettes and was like, I'm starting right back up. And so, but I ended up really loving that part of the world. And so we ended up going to Saudi Arabia a few years later, and that was like 4 months. But we weren't allowed to leave the base at that point because in that area, they were just like, nope, unless it's like mission essential, you don't leave the base. But they would bring like the culture onto the base as much as they could. And so they'd have bazaars and let some of the like local artisans bring their stuff on and things like that. So we still got a taste of it, but it wasn't like exactly the same. And then a few years later after that, I went to Qatar. So I've gotten to go to a few different places in that part of the world. And I think that was probably, and it will, of course, let me back up. Like in between that, we were going to like Germany for annual training, and we got to go to Hawaii for annual training. They tried to pick some like fun places for us to go for training in between. So I think that really kicked off my love of travel and helped me also change my worldview a lot, because Americans, we tend to just, that's all we know. And because because it's so huge, like you said, just our viewpoints are very, like, we don't know any different. So I would say it's self-centered, but it's just because we you know what you know. And so we don't understand that how other people see us. We don't know what else is out there. We don't know how other people live their lives. We just know, okay, I'm in the Midwest, and people on the East Coast are a little bit different, and people on the West Coast are a little bit different, but we have no idea until we go what's in other countries. And so I think that's been really valuable for me to experience that. But so I did that for 21 years. And had several different kinds of jobs within the military, but then the rest of the time on the outside, I was a Spanish teacher for a little bit because I had this Spanish degree. I might as well do something with it. And so I taught high school Spanish for 2 years. And then that's when we started our family and had the 3 kids, and I stayed home with them as much as possible. And then at that point is kind of when I started to segue into fitness. And it started as a fitness apparel company, making tank tops and things like that. And then just over time, it morphed into training. And it started all as online training because I already had all these online clients who had bought apparel from me. And so we decided to do a fitness challenge together, and the rest is history.
The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know.
So,
I didn't know about the Spanish teaching. So that's cool.
that's always surprising to people because I look the way that I do, and then they're like, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" Like, yeah, I try to keep that like tucked in, except for emergencies. But now everybody
good to have in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a pretty diverse background for sure.
Well, diversity is good, and as you say,
It is.
not so many Americans have it. So I think that's great that you have. I think that maybe that's why we connect so well, because we've had different worldviews and seen different things.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we're not so blinkered, which
Yeah.
I think is important. It's a good way to understand other people, other cultures. I think it's what keeps us, I don't know, keeps us alive and interesting.
Yep. I agree. When you got to Israel, what was okay, wait, you mentioned a back to Israel program or back to what'd you call it?
The law of returns. Well,
Law of return. Yes. Tell me about that because I've never heard of that.
oh, so basically Israel after the Second World War obviously was established as a place, well, there was always Israel, but it was called Israel for a place for Jews to go, seeing as we were obviously being annihilated and had nowhere, obviously out of 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust. So then there was, they made a law that if you had even I think it's even 1/8 drop of Jewish heritage, that you were welcome to come and live in Israel. So Judaism goes down through the mother. Okay, the bloodline is through the mother. It doesn't actually matter if your father is Jewish or not. If you have a Jewish mother, you are Jewish. But they wanted to make sure that any Jew could come to Israel. So even if it was on your father's side, but your grandfather, there's different. So basically any Jew can come to Israel. Like if you go to, if I wanted to come live in America, I mean, you've got to go through a whole process and apply and whatever.
Right.
So as long as you can prove you're Jewish, you can come live in Israel, which is why Israel is a complete melting pot from people from all over the world, because it's, anybody can come if you are Jewish in some fashion. So yeah, that's the law of returns, that any Jew is welcome in Israel. Because, well, as we're saying right now, we have to have one, I would say, safe place, although it's not feeling very safe right now.
Yeah.
That is highlighting how much we need a country. So this little teeny country so it's a real melting pot of different cultures and people. So it isn't so strange that I'm English, but I'm living here, or I have American friends and English friends and, people from all over the world.
That's very interesting. I'd never heard of that, but that makes a lot of sense.
These are things that's so obvious to me, but
yeah, but that's why I wanted to do this, because there's some things that you say and I'm like, what?
It's so
and we'll
weird.
get into that in future episodes, because we can't give it all to them on day one. Right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to wrap it up for this episode of The Fit Connection, and I can't wait until we talk again, because I want to hear more. I'm going to share more. I feel like there's so much for us, so much more that we need to cover. I'm excited.
Absolutely. To do this again. We have so much to learn about each other's worlds, and it's
for sure.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, me too. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.